walking through from the beginning is probably.
Okay, let me open. I think you guys got, I'm going to show you my screen. Hold on one second. So yeah, so now we'll go back and we'll go through the beginning of filing and what it looks like when you log in online and how to, like, the questions you're going to answer, all that fun stuff. Okay. Okay, I think, can you guys see my screen?
I still see you.
You still see me, not my screen though?
Not your screen yet.
Weird.
It says oh, so change to.
Whoa. I don't know what I just did. That was really weird. Now can you see it?
No, I still.
I can see it.
You can see it? Screen?
I can see it too.
Okay. Do you see the PDF I have open?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So when you log into your, when you get your login, again, you'll get that letter in the mail with your account number on it. You'll log in and this will be the first screen that you see. So you'll click certify for benefits and then they'll ask you a series of questions. So this will be, so when you certify for 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, right? So the week 1, they ask you, were you too sick or injured to work? You always say no, unless you come down with COVID-19 and then you want to say yes, because like, yeah, you'll get your benefits still. But typically you want to say no, because if you were out of work for, let's say, 1 to 2 days, then they're going to say, well, you weren't looking for work at that time, so we're going to subtract 2 days of benefits from your check. So I always just say no to that question. Was there any other reason other than sickness or injury that you could not have accepted full-time work each day? That is always a no. Did you look for work? That is always a yes. Did you refuse any work? Always a no, always. Did you begin attending any kind of school or training? I always say no, but just so you guys understand, let's say you do start attending school or training. If you answer yes to that question, they're going to say, well, how many days a week are you in school or training? If you're there 5 days a week, okay, well, that's 5 days a week. You're not looking for a job, so they will deny your benefits because of that. So just be wary when you're answering that question. Did you work or earn money whether you were paid or not? That's yes or no. If you did work, you want to say yes. If you worked on a time card and it's only for this week. So if you worked in this week, April 28th through May 4th, then you want to say yes. And then you'll hit next, and it's going to take you to the next screen, which is your work search record. So this is where you just want to hit next on the page, because you don't really have to fill it out as a freelancer, because they understand, they are well aware of our industry, and they're well aware of how we get our work, which is word of mouth usually. So just all you do is just hit next. Don't put anything in it, just hit next, and you'll go to the next page. So then they'll ask you, you indicated in question 6 that you did not work. So, and then they're going to ask if you received any other type of income, which you probably didn't. So you would hit no. And then you'll go to the next. But if you did, let's say you did work, you would click yes. And then it's going to take you to another screen where you'll enter your employer information, which is the payroll company. It's always the payroll company. It's never the production company. So if the production company uses CAPS Universal as their payroll company, that is your employer of record. Or if they use Entertainment Partners, that is your employer of record, or Media Services, etc. So then we go next. And now here's week 2. It's the same set of questions. Were you too sick or injured to work? No. Was there any reason other than sickness or injury that you could not have accepted full-time work each day? That's always a no. Did you look for work? Yes. Did you refuse any work? No. School or training? No. Did you work or earn any money? That's yes or no if you did or you didn't. And then there's 2 additional questions here that are, do you want federal income tax withheld for the week? So that's up to you. So let's say you're making the max amount, which is $450 a week on unemployment. If you opt to take taxes out, they take out $45, which makes your weekly amount $405 after taxes. With that said, like I've had times when I'm not working and I'm like, oh, I really need that extra $45. So I don't have them take taxes out, but just know that depending on how many times or how much you file for unemployment and you don't check that box, this box right here, you might end up owing tax money on that later, or it will reduce the amount of your refund when you file your taxes. So just keep that in mind when you're clicking or not clicking this box. And then it'll go down. It asks you the same question for week 2. Did you receive any other type of income? No. But if you did, like, look at this list. Like, there's a whole, yeah. So just look at it and just make sure you didn't receive any of that money. So then it will ask you to review and submit your certification. So you just go through, make sure you answered all the questions correctly. And then it's going to ask you to check the box and put in your zip code where you live, and you'll hit submit. And then that's it. So you submit it, and this happens every 2 weeks. And you'll also get an email every 2 weeks that will remind you. It'll just say you have weeks available to certify. And it'll send you a link, and you click on the link and you'll log in and you'll do this whole process. And I like to keep a calendar because, like I mentioned, they want, 18 months of work history. So I keep a calendar. Every time I work on a time card, I put the payroll company, I put who the production company was, and I put my day rate. So I know how much I made that week. And I do that every job. And it's just a good way to also keep, like, if you ever need to go back and make a resume, then you have all that information on your calendar. So it's just a good idea to keep it in there. So there's that. Let me stop sharing my screen because I think it's freaking out. Stop presenting. Okay.
Wow, that was exciting.
So, any questions regarding that filing? Oh, I would be curious to know what resources people still feel like they need.
Yes.
Okay. So, other resources. So there's this one called that I just recently found that's been really helpful, especially right now. It's called Freelancers Union. I'm going to put in the website in here, freelancersunion.org. And they have so much information. They also have this Freelancers Relief Fund. So if you file for unemployment and you don't qualify and you're not getting any benefits after you've exhausted unemployment, after you've exhausted the pandemic unemployment assistance once they get that up and running, or even the Paid Family Leave Act, Paid Family Leave Act, then Freelancers Union has put together a relief fund for freelancers like us who are not eligible for any of those benefits. And they're getting donations just from people. So maybe you have some extra money and you can donate, but if not, apply, because they're doing it on a case-by-case basis. And just like, they're just trying to help as many people as they can. So that's a really good resource. And what else? There was one more. I think I already sent you that other website with the fact sheet. That is very helpful as well. And just keep checking those websites because they're updating every day with all the new rules and regulations. And as the federal government figures out how to handle all of this, they're passing it along to the state government. So just keep an eye on it because it's changing every day. And yeah, we just want you guys to get the benefits you need. Let me see what other questions.
Here, what happens if you check the no box on the question? Did you look for work?
If you check the no box, then it's possible that they could deny your benefits, because the whole point of unemployment is to pay you for 40 hours of looking for a job a week. So they expect you, when you're on unemployment, to literally be spending 8 hours a day looking for a job. So that's why I always just say yes on that box, because, you know, you don't want your benefits to get denied. And you should absolutely be looking for a job, 100%. Just do the best you can. But I mean, 8 hours a day to be expected to look for a job is a little much, I think. But yeah, and like I said, they know we get all of our jobs by word of mouth, so they don't even expect us to fill that part out. So I never do.
I think Turney, looks like there's another number as well. I think there's probably certain times of the day that EDD is busier than others, I would imagine.
So, and also their phone lines are only open 8 a.m. to noon, you guys. That's the only time of day they take calls, 8 a.m. to noon. And I know if you call it right at 8 a.m., it's going to be tough to get in. So I might even wait till like, I don't know, 10:30 a.m. maybe and try to get on the phone with them. But just know they only answer the phone 8 a.m. to noon, Monday through Friday.
Excellent.
Gabrielle, what's your question? On immediate supervisor, should we just put, on immediate supervisor, yeah. So you can just put the production coordinator, or your PM. You can put your producer, whoever you want, because they do not, I know that was one of the questions. They don't really call to check. The only people they call would be CAPS or like media services or whoever you listed as your last employer to just check if you did get laid off. And with our job, you guys, because the shoot is over, or because like you only got booked in like 5 days as an office PA or a set PA or whatever, that technically means you're getting laid off every time. So because the work has ended, there is a lack of work, and they know that. So yeah, that technically means you're getting laid off. What about 1099 jobs? So 1099 jobs is a little tricky because since taxes aren't taken out of those checks, technically you can claim it, but you have to list yourself as the employer, which gets a little weird because when you list yourself, then unemployment is going to come to you and say, hey, you need to pay X amount of dollars into this plan to pay your employee, which is you, which makes no sense, right? So I just don't even report it. Unless the only way I'd report it, and this only pertains to right now because there is a pandemic, is because right now under the CARE Act, they are covering 1099 employees. So if your last job was a 1099 job, then yeah, file and report it. But if your last job was on a time card where they took taxes out, then I would not report the 1099 work. Does that make sense?
Let's see, here's another one. Lyft and Uber drivers should go ahead and file until further notice. Just file traditional.
Yeah. Yep, just file. Just file for traditional because they still don't have the pandemic unemployment assistance program up yet in the state of California. So I would just go ahead and file anyway. And if anything, if they deny your benefits, by the time that happens, hopefully they'll have the pandemic assistance unemployment. So yeah, then you can file for that. So I would just go ahead and file for unemployment anyway.
I filed a few days ago. What are the next steps? Wait for paperwork in the mail? Yep.
Yeah, so they always operate by mail. Yeah, so you just have to wait for the paperwork. And like I mentioned before, it might take a little longer just because they've had 2 million people file in the last 3 weeks. And they're normally filing like 2,000 people a day. So they're very overwhelmed right now. So it might take a little longer than usual. How much do you know how much to expect in unemployment? So how much to expect depends on your wages. You'll definitely get the $600 on top of your weekly benefit amount. So you'll at least be getting $600. But again, to that point, you have to make sure that when you file and they say, what's the reason you're no longer working? You have to say, laid off due to lack of work because of the coronavirus. Like put coronavirus in there, like make sure that you specified that is the reason why. So you would get that $600 plus whatever your normal weekly benefit amount, which could be up to another $450. See.
Sure. Ride shift for quite a while. Still report my PA earnings.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt because they'll see you made that money, and if anything, it's only going to help you get more money from unemployment, because they base your what you get from unemployment off of how much money you've made in that past 18 months.
Ramel, it's for sure 600 if you put that you were laid off for coronavirus. Like,
yeah, 600 on top of what your normal weekly benefit amount would be, which is anywhere from $45 a week to $450 a week. 45 is the minimum, which, I mean, I'm sure I think we'll all make a little more than $45 a week on unemployment, hopefully. That would be rough.
Oh, here's another one. I have filed and received the mail and the account number, but I'm still receiving a severance pay, so I didn't pursue my claim. Do I need to cancel the old one and file a new one?
No. So if you have filed it recently, I would just log in. If you have your account number already, I would just go ahead and log in and see what it tells you, because it'll say you have weeks to certify for, or it'll tell you your claim has been closed or it's still open. So definitely just log in and see what it says. And even if you're still receiving severance pay, like, still file, because like I said, they'll either deny you or you could still get benefits on top of your severance pay. So yeah, I would definitely go ahead and log in and file anyway, but just definitely tell them you have the severance pay for sure.
Got it. Are we claiming full-time or part-time as a PA?
Full-time.
Any more? Last chance, guys. Awesome. This is great. If you guys have questions, you can also email them to Melissa or to me, and I can absolutely get them to Melissa.
I'm happy to help you guys. Absolutely. Yeah. Email me. I'm around because I don't have any plans today because, coronavirus. But yeah, I'm around. So let me know.
Yeah.
Happy to help you guys.
Everyone, lots of thanks.
My pleasure. I'm glad I got to see you all. And yeah, just shoot me an email. And Amy, I'll email you right now all the resources that I put in the chat bar so we can send to everyone, just so they have it all in one place.
Awesome. I will get that. I will get everyone. I will get this out to everyone who's been on this call. So thank you guys.
Perfect.
Appreciate it. All right.
Thank you. See you guys later.
See you Saturday. Thanks, Melissa. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Bye.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thanks, Melissa. Bye.
Thank you, guys. See you later.
Thank you.
Try this number for ED018. And if this number doesn't work, keep Googling it, because there's like a bunch of threads on the internet that go into detail, and people are like, oh, I called this 310 number, or I called this number and I got right to someone. So there's like other phone numbers that you can call that you might get right through to somebody. Is it normal to get your first week denied because it's used for tax purposes? Wouldn't they waive that due to the coronavirus? The simple answer to that is yes, they will waive it. They are waiving it. Usually there's a week-long waiting period to get benefits, so they're waiving that because of COVID-19. For tax purposes, I'm not really sure what that means. Like, does that mean you owe taxes? I don't know. If you do, then it's definitely a possibility that the IRS would come in and take that money, but right now I don't think that would be the case. Do the rules change due to the coronavirus? Yes, the rules have changed. So now, in addition to them waiving the 10-day or 1-week waiting period, they're adding on top of the benefits you are already going to receive. On top of that amount, they're adding another $600 a week until July 31st of this year. So everyone who applies and gets benefits, they should be able to get $600 a week on top of their weekly benefit amount. do the rules change due to coronavirus? Yes, so the rules do change when you're filing for unemployment, but I think the trick with that is when you're filing to say the reason you're no longer working is because of coronavirus. It is super important to make that differentiation. Otherwise, I don't think you would get that extra $600 a week because they're putting that $600 per week on top of your weekly benefit amount, whatever that comes out to. It's going to be different for everybody. So that's a good thing because usually the max benefit amount for unemployment is $450 per week. So if you qualify for that max amount, which not everyone will, but if you qualify for that max benefit amount, you'll get $600 on top of that, which means $1,050 a week before taxes, which was super helpful in this time for a lot of people. The next question is, what is the difference between natural disaster benefits and unemployment? Well, there's a couple things with that. COVID-19 has not been declared a natural disaster yet. And natural disaster constitutes an earthquake or hurricane or anything that's happening of that nature that is preventing you from going to work. So right now, COVID-19 is not a natural disaster, which means you can't apply for natural disaster benefits because of COVID-19 to get unemployment. The next question is, if the production company I was working for said they would pay 2 weeks to help the crew, but I haven't received that check, do I report it on unemployment? So that one's kind of tricky because if let's say you were working for a company and they're like, yeah, we'll give you the 2 weeks that you were supposed to work. Did you fill out a time card for that? If you did, then I would report it and report those days that you filled out the time card for. If you did not fill out a time card and it was just a verbal agreement, then I would not claim it yet until you get the check because you might not get that check. A lot of companies are probably coming to terms with, like right now as we speak, coming to terms with what this really looks like for them financially. And those payments, they might decide, because they're not mandated to pay that. So they might decide they can't do it, or maybe they figure out they can't do it. So that one's kind of an open-ended question. Is it problematic if I've not filed taxes in 14 years and I only have 3 months of work history / pay stubs? I wouldn't say it's problematic. Mostly to file for unemployment, you're supposed to have a work history in that state of 18 months. But in this instance, because there is a pandemic and because now there's all these new parameters around filing for unemployment, I would just file anyway. The worst they can do is say no, and it's just better to at least file for that. And if you aren't able to get benefits, then to seek other routes, which I have a couple of options for you guys that I'll go over if you don't qualify for unemployment. As an Uber Lyft driver, how do I go about obtaining unemployment? So that one, they're still working out. And again, I'll say just file and just see what happens because Lyft and Uber specifically are pushing back on these benefits. And they're still in kind of like a tug of war with the government. So I would still just file anyway. I filed an unemployment form on March 17th. I've been waiting to receive my customer account number via snail mail. Yes, it is going to take a minute to get to you guys. You will get a letter in the mail that looks like this. And it'll have your account number on it. It'll give you all the information to log in. And yeah, just give them a minute because I've read that usually they get 2,000 claims per day for filing unemployment. It was last week or a week ago, they had like 80,000 in one day. And I think 2 million people have filed for unemployment in the last 3 weeks. So they're very overwhelmed right now and very just trying to keep their heads above water. So be patient with the mail and just getting your papers. If it's been more, they usually say 10 business days. If it's been more like 14 business days, then I would give them a call. And I put a phone number in there that might work. That phone number in the chat bar I sent you guys is the number to the Canoga Park Employment Development Office. I've been there a couple of times. Those people are very helpful. So yeah, I would just try that number and you might get through to somebody. Here's a good one. I'm working part-time. My hours have been reduced. Should I still file for unemployment? Yes. So you should file for what is called the pandemic unemployment assistance, which would more or less be for people who have had their hours cut. It's for people who can't work because their children are out of school and they have to stay home and take care of their kids. That also falls under the Paid Family Leave Act, which is another form of unemployment insurance that you can file for, which also applies to people that have to stay home because they're caring for someone who has COVID-19. So yeah, I would still apply, absolutely still apply, because they'll give you assistance. And again, even if they say no, like that's worst case, at least you applied and at least like, you know, you've exhausted all avenues to get you the benefits you guys deserve and need. And so as far as the pandemic unemployment assistance, right now, unfortunately, they're still working that out because it kind of falls under unemployment insurance, but it's different. But because they're basically California state is still waiting for for guidelines from the federal government for the pandemic unemployment assistance. So what I'd say to that, which I'll send you guys a link because this website was very helpful and there's it's a fact sheet on unemployment and filing and the pandemic unemployment assistance. They're still trying to work it out, but this applies to people, again, who can't work because they have to take care of their kids that are now home from school. Applies to people who have lost their job as a result of COVID-19, which could also be Uber and Lyft drivers, any gig workers, anyone who's on a 1099 who's been working on invoice. Those people now qualify under the CARE Act, which is great because typically before this, you couldn't file for unemployment if you were on invoice only, because unemployment when you're working comes out of your W-2 checks. So like when you fill out a time card and they take taxes out of that check, part of those taxes go into unemployment insurance for you. Let's see. And I've also read this morning that if you qualify for pandemic unemployment assistance, then you are not eligible for unemployment insurance. So just keep that in mind. But since they're still working out what's happening with the pandemic unemployment assistance, I would still file for unemployment. Just file, because it's better to get a little money than no money at all. Do I reapply or keep waiting for the mail? Don't keep reapplying. Just apply once, just wait for the mail. Like I said, they're super overwhelmed right now. 2 million people have applied in the last 3 weeks. So just give them some time. So I'm currently looking for work, but haven't found employment. Will I qualify for unemployment? That's a good question. I think that it depends on what happened at your last employer. Did you get laid off because of COVID-19 and that's why you're looking for work? Or did you just get laid off because of lack of work, that kind of thing? So yeah, just file. It doesn't hurt. It literally can't hurt. And so when you're filing, you guys, it's important to know, so they're gonna ask you for your last 18 months of work history, which I know is super overwhelming and a lot. Especially if you've been a PA for quite some time or have been working in the industry for quite some time. So the reason why they ask for all of that information is because they want to make sure you are who you say you are. And one way they do that is to ask for your last 18 months, because who is going to know better than you where you've been working the last 18 months, right? So even if, let's say, like you don't have all your pay stubs and you're not you know, like you're missing this one pay stub from this one job. Like, don't worry about it. It's okay. Just put in what you know, put in all the information you possibly can, enter it, and you'll be good. Because unemployment still has access to like this huge payroll database where they see all your pay stubs. They know who you've worked for, how much money you made with them. Like, they know. So they're just using that as a way to confirm your identity. Especially because, like, you know, they don't physically have you go into the office when you file, and it's all through mail and the internet. So that's a great way for them to figure out, like, that you are who you say you are.